Hello everyone and welcome back to Timberborn. This is episode 16 of the Haunted Hollow series. In the last episode we worked on our tube network. We have some pipes going all the way across to the edge of the map, and one of the objectives of today's video is to build some overhangs, block off some of these water paths, and then start creating a reservoir near the end of the map. This is going to be fairly involved, so we can start by placing down one dirt block, and from there we can get some overhangs, getting us to the edge of the map, and then we can go across. If we place down a 5 long overhang and then a 4 long, that'll get us right to the edge, and then we can start going in this direction, and then we can also get some tubes set up, and then we can just start going some of the 6 overhangs all the way across. And if we look down from above, we can make it all the way to the edge. This looks kind of ridiculous, and this is not going to be the main thing that I want us to focus on. We can lower the priority for everything if we click this top one, and then we can also add in the tubes going up. This is more of a vanity project. It's not essential to our survival. But if we go down in elevation, we can see how far we want the water to back up. We can see this is the elevation of the sluices upstream. So if we go down one more, that should be sufficient. And we're going to be using dirt blocks to build these dams. And then we can also lower the priority for all of these. And then I was going to put some dam pieces there instead, but I think we actually won't be able to reach these underneath. Instead, we'll need to add some dynamite and blast away part of this. And then we can add in a few dam pieces along the side. And then while we have all of that going on in the background, the main thing that I want to focus on in today's episode is our production line. We added in 4 wood workshops in the last episode. The reason being is that I want to get these monuments unlocked. They all require a good amount of science. And then we have the earth repopulator, which is the wonder for the iron teeth. That requires a good amount of gears, treated planks, and metal blocks. We don't have nearly enough for any of these at the moment, so we need to start stacking up our resources to get these. And we have a good start with those additional wood workshops. But we have a lot of beavers who need a job, and we're going to continue to expand our production zone. We can start by adding in a few overhangs, and then I'm going to add some platforms and overhangs on this side as well. And then we'll also need to make sure that we have the tube network set up. It currently is going along the side here, and we can either have it loop from this side to go back to this section, or we could go around here maybe. If we get an overhang set right here, and we remove this single lantern, then we can have the tube network run on top of this, and then we can utilize these single platforms. And you can see the bots and beavers are immediately starting to construct these structures. And of all the resources we have, gears is one that I definitely want to focus on, as well as treated planks, but we need to make sure that we have all the raw materials. Planks are looking good, but we have pine resin that we collect over here, and I'm going to want to unmark the rest of these pine trees from being chopped down, since we have the tapper shack that is hidden away right next to our reservoir. And if that's the only pine trees that we have, we actually might be in trouble, because I don't think that'll be enough pine resin to supply our entire colony. We do have a section over here that we could plant some pine trees. First we'll need to remove all these blueberry bushes. Then we can also fill in some of these bare spots with oak trees. And then in the process of adding in the dirt excavator, I removed all of the lumberjack flags on this side. So we need to also make sure we can have some lumberjack flags added in. And then we can add in the forester. We'll make sure that this guy prioritizes getting the pine trees planted, and then basically just fill every space in that this guy can reach. And it also appears that we're pretty much maxed out on metal blocks, which means that we need to focus on storage as well. Since our production area is shifting from this side over towards this direction, we should probably also get some new storage in this area. It may have been a little preemptive, but maybe we could replace some of these platforms with some storages. We also have some areas under here that we could use. We could also focus on just getting some storage in this section, as long as we have a path set up, and then make sure we have some stairs that lead down here. And now we are starting to experience a wood shortage. We have only about 150 logs. We have some more trees that can be chopped down. If we switch some of these lumberjack flags to bots, that'll help get our wood stores up. Let's see how our second wood farm is going. We have the one right over here, and it seems like we have a good amount of trees. Some of them are growing up, and then we also have some trees up here. We can switch one of these lumberjack flags to be a bot as well. And we are still dumping a ton of wood into all of our plank production. If we pause maybe just a couple of these, that'll help our wood stores get up just a little bit. And now we have 23 unemployed beavers. We can maybe switch some of these builders' huts back to beavers. And we are starting to have bots run out of energy. I hope we have enough charging stations around. How's our power looking? We have 0.6 days until we have a drought appearing. And it looks like all of our gravity batteries are fully charged up. Ooh, and we also have some beavers working in these power wheels. Honestly, they're not entirely necessary now. I guess we can just get some more hauling posts set up. We can start trying to squeeze in some charging stations where we can. Thankfully they're only 1 by 1, so it's not going to be too difficult to find some spaces. And we have a 9-day drought, but we're doing fantastic on water. We have over 8,000. Unfortunately, the beavers in this swimming pool are not going to be able to swim much longer because all these water pumps will pump the rest of the water out. And we have most of our storages set up now. We can make a lot of these set to metal blocks, and then we can also have some set to planks as well. We are doing pretty good on scrap metal. We have about 390. It could be better. We don't have this prioritized by haulers, but we can increase that. Although I think we might just be limited on how fast these bots can produce scrap metal. So we might need to look at adding in a second mine somewhere. I think that we have a mine, but it is actually underwater. In fact, it's worse than underwater. It is underneath Badwater. So this one is an option. It might take a little bit of finessing for us to actually get access to it. Let's see if there's another one somewhere else on the map. We have one in basically the opposite corner. We're kind of close to it. We do have one of the tube stations over here. We would need to continue along this section. So this one might be easier to do. We don't need to worry about draining anything. The only downside is that it's a little bit farther away. But we already have some infrastructure set up, so we just need to continue our tubes in this direction. So this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to have the tubes go all the way across. And that is one of the advantages of using the iron teeth over the folktails. Since the bots and beavers are going to be able to use the tube network to build the tube network. For now we can have one of the tube stations terminate right here. In reality, I'm going to lower all of this, and then we're going to move the tube network even closer so they can hop directly into the mine. And then we can add in some of the storages where we can put some of the resources that they need in order to produce the scrap metal, and then also store the scrap metal. And of course, it requires treated planks for us to construct this mine. And we are going up. We have 260. We had only, I think, 90 at the beginning of this episode. But just another reason to increase our treated plank production. And so this is quite a bit for the beavers to construct. We'll let them work on it as they can. We'll leave it at normal priority. And then we can hop back into our production area and look at constructing some of those core buildings. We have some of the wood workshops. We're going to need to add even more, and then same with the smelters. And then I did end up replacing a few of the platforms with some storages. And now it's just trying to figure out how we want to actually get the storages so they connect into this elevation. We'll have some stairs going up here, but I want to figure out which direction we want to move, and then also how we want to add in the buildings on top. And somehow we still don't have a control tower. We can unlock that for 1,000 science. That is going to help all the bots work faster. Now we just need to figure out where we want to construct some. If we start at this end of the map, we can place one right here, and then we basically just need to work our way over and make sure there's as much overlap as we can get. And it looks like we have these... Oh, it's just the path that's not connected. It looks like the power is being transferred. We just need to add in some easy paths. And then we can continue to duplicate some of these gear workshops. We'll have 5 more along this section. And then this should be perfect since we have 4 spaces in between. We can get a few more smelters constructed. And then we do have some more space over here. Maybe we get some storages. That way the beavers and bots don't need to wander as far away in case they need to do something. So I'm thinking adding in a few chargers. And then we can also get a small warehouse and water tank. And then make sure all of these are set to prioritize by haulers. And apparently we have no eggplant ration storage. We have most of our food down here. We can get a few more medium warehouses constructed on top, and then let's make sure we have some of these rations that we have not had any storage set to so far. And then pivoting back over to our second mine, the bots and beavers have made some good progress. We're making our way all the way across, and soon they'll be able to start working on placing the dynamite down. Seems like we have about 200 saved up, which is not as much as I was hoping, but that's also the most that we can store, so we need to change some storages if we want to get even more. Thankfully, it shouldn't take too much to construct the explosives in this section. We also need to make sure that we have a tapper shack. Looks like this one will be able to reach the entire pine tree section. It looks like we're also running short on berries, which is unfortunate because we just removed an entire section of berries over here. Let's see how our berry farm is doing. I know we have some down below. And if we continue to go down, it looks like we have picked all of the blueberries. So we might need to start looking at some other areas. So that section we don't have any. This guy is focused on coffee beans. Let's make sure he has switched to berries. We can also switch this to bots. It's not a whole lot since it's only 3 blueberries per bush, but it should be able to tie us over at least for now. And then we can add even more overhangs. We only have a couple of these buildings that we constructed, but we'll make sure we switch it so now we can have even more smelters. And then we can do the same for the wood workshops in this direction. Although we might want to shift it over a little bit so we can have a path going in between. Alternatively, we can have some platforms on top and then continue the tubes and have another tube station somewhere on this side just to try and increase the efficiency. And then I'm also seeing that we have completely run out of gravity battery power. We still have another 3 days left, so we're going to turn back on some of these large power wheels. We do have enough that we can unlock the Badwater discharge, and I think we should be able to reach that from right above, and that would allow us to get even more power during a drought or a bad tide. So let's bump some of these buildings up on the priority list, and then have it set to open. And thankfully it looks like they can reach this, so now we're just dumping a bunch of resources into constructing it. Metal blocks are going down. We only have about 250, but it kind of makes sense since we've been putting a lot of them into building these overhangs, this Badwater discharge, and then some of the other buildings that require metal blocks. And then going way back to our original thing that we were working on at the beginning of the episode, if we detonate this dynamite, now we should be able to construct these last few pieces of dirt blocks. And it looks like they've actually made fantastic progress. We have this section done. This section will be completed very soon. And then they have almost made it over here. So I'm excited to see what happens when the drought is over. We have 2.4 days left. And it looks like they finished constructing the Badwater discharge. So we're going to be getting some extra power here very shortly. The water wheels are starting to spin up. If we check up on the gravity batteries, hopefully we'll see this number go up above 5,800. And then we can start getting some charging going on. The Badwater has just made it to the end and we popped up above 6,000, but our demand is also going to go up since during the daytime we obviously have a lot of beavers working, but on the bright side we're getting some additional power and we're not relying exclusively on the beavers pushing and also the engines. So I have a tunnel placed right here and I'd like to place one below it, but I guess it makes sense because otherwise the platform that will be left after they place it would be floating, but hopefully we can place some dynamite on top of this. Let's see, if I pause it real quick, and then we can remove this platform, then we should be able to fit one more piece of dynamite, and it does look like that's preventing the gravity battery from lowering, so if we up that up on the priority list, we'll get a little bit of additional power from this gravity battery, and it seems like we have about 2,000 less power than we need, so let's see how fast this gravity battery falls down. It's not quite as fast as I was thinking, but it's definitely going to be to the bottom by the end of the day. But on the bright side, we have the Badwater discharge, so now everything's running at closer to full efficiency. And then we've almost made it to construct the tube station at the end. We're also almost out of pine resin. We only have 28 at the moment. And just for a moment, I saw we had a homeless beaver, but it looks like we have completely balanced homes and beavers. So that means that we need to add in some more housing. We can add in a few more houses and then some rooftop terraces, but we're getting kind of close to near the end of what I think is feasible. We could probably go some overhangs on top to go up 1 or 2 more times, but at that point we're going to be up to the level where the mountain is. But it does look like we finished constructing all the buildings we have set down so far, and yet we still have some more beavers who are unemployed. It also looks like we have 0.1 days left in the drought. Soon we can get some more water collected. We have about 5,000 at the moment. So even with our increasing population and all of these hydroponic gardens, we're still doing great. And now we are completely out of pine resin. We don't have any left in the colony. And then we're still waiting for these trees to grow up. Looks like some of them are getting close. They're about 80-90% of the way there. So we have another 1 to 2 days, and then we have another 7 days before they can produce some pine resin. We should also make sure we have some storage for the pine resin. We can fit some on some platforms right on top of this, and the water is fully flowing. It's filling up this area that is irrigating the trees, and then the water is also going in this direction. So it's filling up the irrigation zone for our second tree farm. I say second tree farm, we have so many. We have one up here, one down below, and then we have our main tree farm, which really spreads across a good portion of the colony. And then we also have another tree farm or 2 over here. And look at that, we have the mine. It's almost constructed. We should pause it for now. Ooh, that's not what I meant. We should leave it unpaused. I want them to construct it, but I don't want the beavers to hop into it. So we can leave that there. I think the bots, yeah, they'll start working on that. And then we can also place down the last of the dynamite. And we are officially out of logs. We only have 1 log left. And even though we don't have our second mine up and running, we are going up in scrap metal. We have almost 700. So we can add in at least another couple of smelters. And while increasing how many buildings we have is great, if we switch some more of these to bots, that'll also increase our efficiency. But we'll just need to be careful on how many bot jobs we have vacant. I'm guessing that they just constructed the mine since we have 14 now. And it looks like that is the case. Let's pause this temporarily, get all the bots out of the way, and then we can start detonating this dynamite. And now we have the efficient mine up and running once again. We also can get some storages constructed. We have another tube station that's closer. And then we need to get some resources that the bots require. And now one thing that we aren't doing, either here or at the other mine, is we don't have any sort of power source for them to charge. So if they run out of juice, they have to go all the way back through the tubes in order to get to a charging station. We could put one that's a little bit closer and serve as a charging hub for both of those. We have some space up here that we can move some of these builders' huts because those don't really need to be right here. And we're 4 days into the wet season. Let's see how the water's going over here. We have a complete lake. I don't think any of the water is spilling out quite yet, but things are looking good. It's exactly what I was expecting. And just now the water is overflowing through the dams. So we have a ton of green space and a ton of water. I guess we don't have as much green space. We have some though, but it is pretty far from everything else. We have some trees that we could chop down if needed. It'd be a little bit difficult to get down here. And we are having some trees grow up in this section. Looks like this tree is about 25% of the way to producing pine resin. And we definitely need it. We have no pine resin left. We have 170 treated planks. And our demand for treated planks is only going up with that second mine. And then one thing that I have failed to address during this episode is one of the most important things if we want to get all the monuments unlocked, and that is science. We have enough to unlock the Flames of Unity, but we are nowhere close to unlocking these next two. So that'll be something we focus on in the next episode. Right now it seems like we're doing a pretty good job of producing more materials. We're playing a little bit of catch up now with getting some of the raw materials, specifically logs and pine resin. But I'm hoping that the pine resin will be handled with this second forest, because that is a lot of trees and that's going to hopefully be a good amount of pine resin. In terms of the logs, we have a good amount of forests around. I think that we've just been dumping so many logs into building all of this that it burned through our stores quicker than we could replenish it. So now that we have most of this infrastructure set up, we hopefully won't need to have too many more trees that we need to plant. We can rely on the existing forests. But in the next episode, we can get some more of these number crunches constructed, which will also require more power. And it seems that we are not charging up our gravity batteries that much during the evenings. And during the daytime, our power network is getting even more thirsty, because at this point we require over 11,000 HP. So in the next episode, we'll focus on science production and then also power production. We have some water wheels over here. We might need to extend those downstream and then potentially upstream as well, since we have a good amount of space that we could fit some water wheels. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button. It really does mean a lot to me and it helps the channel out tremendously. And be sure to check out some of the live streams. Saturday mornings is when I stream most often. And with that, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.